I'm Tom Brinkley. I'm the Executive Director of the Student Professional Development Center here at Elon. As you know, that means the Career Center, but it means much more than the Career Center, as you'll hear from some of our senior leaders in the Student Professional Development Center, because we work with students on on-campus employment starting their first year. We work with students through internship processes starting their first and second year typically. And clearly we're working with students as they are looking for that full-time position on campus, off campus, or even going to graduate and professional schools. So I wanted to share with you a little bit about who we are and introduce our senior staff here. Brooke Buffington from the Love School of Business. Brooke is the Senior Associate Director of Corporate and Employer Relations and physically sits over in the Love School of Business and really sort of is the team leader for our career advisors in the business school. Laurie Judge. Laurie is a Senior Associate Director for the College of Arts and Sciences and is the team leader and works with a group of about 5 of our professionals. Laurie and that group sits in Mosley in the Student Professional Development Center. And then Ross Wade. Ross is Senior Associate Director of Career Services in the School of Communications and sits in McEwen in the School of Communications. And we have a team of 3 people sitting there. So we have a centralized model of service, but we have decentralized or satellite offices. In addition to these 3, we have an individual who works with student athletes, sits over here in Corey Gym, and we have a lot of outreach throughout this campus. I should have put this slide up first. Welcome and introductions. So the SPDC update, let me just talk about that for a few minutes and give you some stats on who we are and the things that we're doing. Then we'll talk about career advising and engagement, and then we'll finish, the majority of this 45 minutes will be our student panel. And you'll hear from 3 students who have wonderful experiences they can tell you about and things that they might advise parents on in working with their students. So I think you'll enjoy that. One of the things we're very proud of is the progress we've made here in the Career Center in building this whole Student Professional Development Center. I came here 8 years ago, and in 2011 we had a total staff of 7 people. It was a very inwardly looking career center. We waited on people to come to us, and that just wasn't working. So we've kind of flipped that model on its head and became a lot more outgoing, a lot more externally focused and looking for opportunities for our students. And that has propelled us, that and the growth of our center, from a staff of 7 people to today a staff of 22 people. So I can tell you that this center has been recognized for our work. And right now, if you look at this list of the top 10 career centers in the United States, these are of all colleges and universities, Elon has been ranked number 7. This ranking comes from the Princeton Review. The Princeton Review is not very scientifically calculated. It's based on alumni ratings. So these are what our alums are telling us. There is no other rating of career services offices that we're aware of. So we like this slide. We talk about it a lot. If we drop out of the top 20, you won't see this again. But right now we're number 7, and we know why. We're there because of the programming that we do, the quality of the professionals that we have on our staff, the reach that we have, and also the outcomes that we have. If you look at our first destination survey information, this is impressive data. I don't know if you can all read that data or not, but our class of 2018, for example, our knowledge rate, that first, make sure I got the right, first red number up at the top, 93%. What that says is that we know where 93% of the graduates are from the class of 2018. That's a phenomenal number, believe me. Not many colleges even get 50 to 60% knowledge rate. So we start working on collecting this information early. The senior year, when they come back from their internships from the summer, we're asking, what are you going to be doing? Do you have an offer? Can we help you with that offer? So we start collecting that data early. We collect it at graduation. We go back out 3 months following graduation, and our final report will be done 9 months after graduation. So right now, we're collecting the class of 2019 data. It looks pretty good too. We're up to 87% knowledge rate right now. And our percent employed and our percent at graduate school are all looking very, very strong. Our percent employed right now is 87%, percent in graduate school is 21. So you can't add those two numbers together, obviously, because that's over 100%. So some are going to graduate school and working part-time. That's why those are not additive numbers. But the class of 2018, if you look at that number and you add 90% and 19%, and you know that those are, as I just said, they're not additive. There are only about 2% who are still looking for a job. That's pretty phenomenal anywhere. So what, if you might hear from other graduates of other programs and places, or from their parents at other schools, my son or daughter can't find a job, my son or daughter is having a difficult time, my son or daughter is on the couch in the basement, which we don't want to happen, right? There's a reason for that. It is not the marketplace. The marketplace right now is really good. The job market is incredible. We hope it'll stay that way. It's been good since the recession in 2008, but our numbers keep going up. Part of it is our programming and our emphasis on life after college. We want students to graduate here with a plan. Whether they've accepted a job or whether they're going to graduate school, when they cross that stage and get their diploma, we hope that they can articulate clearly what's the next step? What are they going to be doing? It could be travel, it could be service, it could be gap year, it could be going to graduate school. But we want them to know that we have the support, we're giving them the support that they need to make that next step in their career, wherever it is. Okay. Who's up? Ross? Okay.
Welcome, everybody. I just wanted to discuss briefly all the things that our office does, and we do quite a bit. One thing that a lot of folks are not aware of is that our office does student employment, on-campus employment as well, and that includes federal work studies. So many of our students come and they need to work 10 hours a week, and we help post those jobs and get our students to those jobs, and they can be all over campus. They can be doing research with a faculty member or working with physical plant or doing media services. So that's one part of what our office does, one out of 3 parts. The second part, which Lori's going to talk about a little bit more in a second, is graduate school and career advising. So helping students from the very start. So who am I? What do I want to do? What majors connect to that? And what careers go with that? And then with that, all those harder skills too, like the writing the resume and the cover letter, interviewing, etc. We also help students decide what grad programs might be good in that application process. And finally, and I think this is the most exciting part, is our really fabulous corporate and employer relations group. And most of our students are not from North Carolina. They're from New York, New Jersey, the Boston area, et cetera. We have some from the West Coast. And so because of that, it's really important that we have opportunities that reflect those geographic areas. Because many of our students come here for school, but then they want to intern or work back home or in a large city after graduation. So we have a group of corporate employer relations folks, and Brooke is one of them, that travel the country all year long, engaging with employers, telling them about Elon talent, and then getting them to post on the Elon Job Network, and then come on campus for on-campus recruiting, our expos, et cetera. And that's something that a lot of other career services offices don't have, and that's something that I'm very excited about. And I'm also very excited about the collaboration between that team and then also the advisors. So these folks come back with insights on what's going on in the industry, what skills are needed, et cetera. So when we find that out, we can give that on to the faculty and students. So it's a really great relationship that we have. So those are the 3 main functions that we do in the SPDC. Next, I just want to give you a couple of numbers just to give you an idea of how many students or student appointments, I should say, that we have in a year. So it's about 5,500. And so again, all those topics that I mentioned earlier, that's what these conversations are going to cover. They also cover the professional headshots that we do for our students' LinkedIn profiles, et cetera. So the traffic in our office and our satellite offices is quite heavy. We also do a lot of programming and workshops. We did about 206 last year. So that includes our larger events like our expos down to classroom visits. We have a really fantastic Don't Cancel Class program where if a faculty member is going to be going to a conference, rather than them canceling class, they contact our office and we'll go in and present on a career topic. So again, we have a lot of really great exposure to our students and meet a lot with them face-to-face and one-on-one as well.
Okay, now I'm not giving some big long speech, I'm just putting these here so I don't speak longer than I need to. So Ross talked about the main types of services we provide. I want to highlight some of the specific programs, initiatives, and events that help us provide those services to our students. So as you can see by the first one of the most important things that students can do while they're here is to actively engage with employers and alumni to learn more about their career interests and to gain skills and experience that will provide value to them in the job market and make them competitive. We're extremely fortunate here at Elon to have a really robust base of employers and a phenomenal group of parents and alumni network that support things like going on the career track that you see up there. Those are where we take students directly to businesses and organizations that are operating within industries that our students are interested in working in. Among many other things we do like that. And our alums and our parents and our employers help us do that. A lot of those folks come to campus for information sessions where they share the industry expertise with students through discussion panels, classroom visits, mock interview sessions, that kind of thing. Just last night we had a group of business students in the SPDC doing mock interviews with some of our employers and some parents who are working within the industry that they want to work in. So we couldn't do it without those folks. I think on the second one, it goes without saying that our students have to develop the skills that employers are looking for. That's sort of like an obvious thing, right? So we provide countless opportunities for students to gain those hard skills in resume and cover letter writing, how to conduct a job and internship search, interviewing and networking skills, some of those skills that they'll take with them and use throughout their lifetime. But we also help our students develop some of those soft skills, or power skills we call them, that'll give them an advantage and make them stand out from other candidates in the hiring process. So think about things like business etiquette, strong communication skills, and navigating the multi-generational, multicultural work world that they are going into. Looking at the collaborations that we have, the SPDC staff aren't the only ones who support students and help students prepare for life after Elon. We collaborate with countless offices and campus organizations to provide programming. There's too many to list today, but suffice it to say that we collaborate with any faculty, staff, and campus organization that is willing to help us prepare students for with the knowledge, skills, and abilities that they'll need in the workforce. The key point with all of this, all the programs and initiatives, is that students have to engage in them. So we want to enlist your assistance in encouraging your students to do that. Let's see here, we'll go to the next one. So some of the events, I want to highlight just a few of the events that we offer to students on campus. One of the first ones that we do is we do a student employment fair. Ross touched on the student employment function in our office. We do a student employment fair. We kick off each semester with a fair. And so students who are wanting to get campus jobs or interested in campus employment can come and meet the offices, organizations, campus groups that are hiring for those kinds of roles. So we've got something like 1,200 to 1,400 students working on our campus in any given year. So if students want to work on campus, there's probably an opportunity for them to do that. Now we do have them go through, submit a resume, we have them go through interviews. So we try to make these student roles on campus high-impact practices where they're developing professional skills in these roles while they're working on campus. As you can see on the slide, I want to mention the Job and Internship Expo. We do a large expo at and each semester, so we have one in the fall and one in the spring, where we have employers on campus to connect with students for positions that they're trying to, full-time positions they're hiring and internships that they're hiring. We just had, pushing 90 employers, I think, at our expo. Was it last week? It seems like it was longer than that. So that's just a few of the opportunities. You can see up here we've got several industry-specific and even class-specific. You see sophomore success types of opportunities, events that students can engage in while they're here on campus. Again, the most important thing about these is that students have to attend. And so again, encourage your students to connect with the SPDC early and often while they're on campus. I'm going to turn it over to Brooke Buffington now, and she and the student panel are going to share some of their amazing experiences that they've had preparing for their careers.
Good afternoon. I have the fun part of this. So I get to introduce you to 3 wonderful young professionals. These are all seniors. You'll see some information about each one of them up there on the slides, but I'm going to let them introduce themselves. I'm going to tell them to go ahead and make sure their microphones are turned on. And we're going to do a quick panel with them so you can learn about their experiences. They're going to talk to their interactions with the Student Professional Development Center, a little bit about their internships and their engagement here at Elon, because I think it's really wonderful for you to have the opportunity to see some Elon students who have gone through this process and have succeeded in that process. So first, I'll have you each introduce yourself. Let us know maybe where you're from, an internship that you've done, and what you're involved in on campus.
Sure. So my name's Riley. I'm a senior from Waxhaw, North Carolina. As you can see, I'm double majoring in international business and strategic communications. And this past summer, I interned with Marriott International. I love hotels. You may have seen me with the Inn at Elon earlier today.
I'm Consuelo. I'm also a senior. I'm originally from Santiago, Chile, but now my family lives in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And this past summer, I interned with W2O Group in Wilmington. They're like a marketing communications firm for healthcare clients. And some things I'm involved with on campus are I'm the VP of Marketing for Elon-thon. I'm an account executive with our Live Oak Communications office in our School of Communications. And I'm also heavily involved with Elon Volunteers.
And I'm Sveva Saja. I'm from Italy. I'm a senior too. I'm doing the dual degree program in international business, which means I started studying in Italy and now I'm finishing my studies here in the US. My previous internship was a 6-month internship at Mercedes-Benz USA corporate office. And on campus, I'm involved with the Center for Organizational Analytics.
Wonderful. So give us briefly, each one of you, I think, has worked with our center, the SPDC, in some capacity. Tell us a little bit about your work with us, and when did you start engaging with the Student Professional Development Center?
Yeah, so 2 years ago, I walked into Brooke's office. She was a career advisor at the time, and I said, "My name is Riley, and I want to work for Marriott." Literally. It's been quite the ride. And since then, I've been having constant one-on-ones, making sure that I'm doing everything correctly, keeping her updated on my career aspirations and where I've been going. And I also work closely with the SPDC. I'm the current president of Alpha Kappa Psi, which is a professional fraternity on campus. And so I work closely with the SPDC to make sure that we are hosting professional development events for all of our brothers, whether that be a AK Psi specifically job fair or mock interviews or resume workshops, anything like that, and as well as bringing employers in to meet with our brothers. So it's been great.
So I was not like Riley. I came in my first year, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And that's what kind of where I first stepped into the SPDC. I came to them, told them that I have absolutely no idea what I want to major in. I don't know where my passions lie, and I was really freaking out. But the really cool thing about SPDC is my relationship with them has been very different throughout my 4 years. My first year was really centered around who I am as a person. They did a lot of personality tests with me and kind of paired me with like certain careers that could go down those paths that my personality matched with. So I'd sit down with career advisors, and they'd go through my personality with me and then kind of lead me towards certain directions. And they helped me get enrolled in a Exploring Majors course, which also kind of helped me. Then more towards my sophomore and junior year, that's when I started to look into internships. And they helped me build my resume, my cover letter, practice those interviews. And then now with my senior year, the job fair was like really helpful as well. It's a chance for you to network and practice networking, even if it wasn't a company that I was going to work for. But yeah, so I think the unique thing about the SPDC is that my relationship with them has been very different from my 4 years, but it's never too early to start that relationship with them, which I think sometimes first years kind of get intimidated or think that SPDC is only for me for junior and senior year when I'm thinking about job employment, but can really be beneficial throughout your 4 years.
And in my case, I arrived at Elon last year, so I was a junior. Part of the dual degree is having a 6-month internship, so I had to start meeting with the SPDC. Also, coming from another country, my resume was different, so I had to, but I also wanted to, because I wanted to know how things work here. It's coming from a different culture also. So I started going to one-on-one interviews and mock interviews. I had my resumes fixed. I also went on some career fields as well. So, and now I'm gonna have my resume fixed again and get ready for whatever comes after.
Tell us about your most recent internship. You all mentioned where you interned, but what was maybe the most impactful learning experience at that internship? You want to go in reverse order? Sure.
So my previous internship was in the controlling department at Mercedes-Benz USA, the corporate office. It was, as I said, a 6-month internship. So I started last March, and I stayed until the end of August. And it was an amazing experience. I learned a lot. When I first came here, I already knew I wanted to work with cars. So I was very lucky to find the internship that I really wanted, and that I also interned in a very good team that they taught me a lot. It was very interesting to see and finally be in a professional setting instead of just school. So probably the most impactful thing was learning how to be professional, not only from class.
So this past summer, I was a public relations intern with W2O Group. And I think, when I think back on my internship experience, three things that really kind of shaped me and helped me grow both personally and professionally through this internship was I learned a lot about being intentional with the relationships within my life. You never know who's going to have an impact on you or who's going to open the next opportunity in your life. So just networking with my coworkers and then really treating me as part of their team was really crucial to my growth. And then I also say to be really responsible for your curiosity. It's something that I've learned throughout my 4 years at Elon is we're in charge of taking that curiosity to the next step, which is going to cultivate our passions. And I think that really came from my internships, especially with being uncertain, my first 2 years of not knowing what I wanted to do. And I found my passion within this internship, and they offered me a job post-grad, so that's super exciting. And then the last thing I learned from this internship was that every person is in the driver's seat of their own professional development. So it was really up to me to ask those questions, to ask for feedback, and that kind of happens throughout your college career as well. But I think my internship really put that into perspective for me.
Yeah, so going off of that, like it says up there this summer, and I already mentioned it, I was an intern within Global Operations, Mobile Digital Guest Services with Marriott International. So I was at their headquarters in Bethesda, Maryland, and it just reinforced everything that I thought going into this internship, being a professional, having an 8 to 5, being able to actually work. But the main thing that I would take away is the power of networking and the power of being consistent. It was a 2-year process in the making. I had no connections with the company, and it's obviously a very large and very spread out company. And to be able to get in, especially to the headquarters, is going to take concentrated effort. And so being able to have that goal and then stick to it and then network with the correct people was 100% something that the SPDC helped facilitate for me. And being able to set yourself up correctly. So the summer before last, I worked as a guest experience expert at the Charlotte Marriott City Center Hotel, which just so happened to be a research and development location for the entire brand. So being able to do that and have those connections at a property, and then being able to go into the next year having on-property experience, so I would be an asset to a global operations division, making those decisions. I'm also a tour guide, and it just so happened that a mother I gave a tour to once worked for the company in accounting, and being able to talk about what I wanted to do and what I was passionate about. You never know who has a connection or who has a similar interest that will help you get to where you want to go, and being able to keep her connection, get coffee with her over the summer, things like that. And then alumni, being able to reach out to the SPDC, being able to know how to work with LinkedIn because you can do organized searches. The way I ended up getting my internship was a 2015 Elon alumni, interned at Marriott. The summer after his junior year, went back post-grad and just so happened to work with the HR representative for global operations, which is where that came from. So just being able to use your network, use Elon, it's huge.
So going off of that, what advice would you give Elon parents that we have in front of us here on how to support and encourage their students' professional development while they're here on campus? I heard a little bit of that in a lot of your responses, but what advice would you give them on kind of best to support the students' professional development?
Mine would be just encourage them not to be scared. Everyone's a human. Like, if they don't want to have a conversation with you, they're not going to have a conversation with you. If they do want to have a conversation with you, then you should have no problem reaching out for an informational interview. Don't be scared. Just network, reach out. People want to help. They really do, but you're not going to get there until you make that first step in the right direction.
I think use your own personal networks to help your students as well, or your children, because my dad, he works at Duke, and I knew that I kind of wanted to go into the healthcare field, but not necessarily the medical side of it, more of the communications and corporate side of it. So I used connections through my own parents. Also, communication is key. Like, if you don't notice them talking about their experiences at Elon, or them talking about things that's really fueling their passions, and kind of like have that conversation with them, and definitely point them back to the resources on Elon's campus. Like, I'm sure some of you have been on tours with your students and you remember hearing about the SPDC or hearing about the job fair or hearing about all these opportunities that we have here on campus, and kind of just like reiterating them and wrenching them again, like, hey, did you remember this happens? And then they'll kind of check it out.
Yeah, and also building off of what Consuelo said, I would also say make your students be proactive, because jobs were not going to come at them just with your fingers. So just make them be proactive. Go to the SPDC, have mock interviews, have their LinkedIn set up, their resume built, and just encourage also them to network as much as they can, because as also what they also said is it's essential.
All right, I've got one more question, and then we might have time for some questions here. I don't have a time clock up here. First is, I would love for all of you, because you all have plans post-graduation, to let the audience know what your plans are post-graduation. And if there's anything else that you think it's important for these parents to know, feel free to relay it.
Sure. So post-grad, I will be returning to Marriott to be part of their post-grad leadership development program. So I will be on property for a year. I'll be at the W Hotel in DC. So I'm really excited about that. Should be an interesting year. And then from there, I'll decide whether or not I'd like to go back up the hospitality corporate route, more global operations, or if I'd like to go on property, decide where I want to be in the world. And then my only last thing about Elon, and I say it all the time, is just make sure that your student knows that the more energy they put into Elon, the more energy Elon will put back out to them. This is 100% a school. You can take advantage of their resources, and that's what they're trying to do. And the more you do that, the more opportunities are going to pop up for you. And it happens.
Mm-hmm. My post-grad plans are kind of up in the air. I do have a job offer from W2O Group. However, my dream would be to be a part-time student and a part-time worker. So I'm currently applying to business school to get my MBA, hopefully, and then work with W2O at the same time. So it's still kind of up in the air, but I do have some direction. And then as for advice, I would say encourage your students to go deep, not wide. I think oftentimes there's this myth that Elon students are heavily involved in so many things, which can kind of be overwhelming, especially in your first year. But to really find those 2 or 3 things that fuel your passion and that you really want to take further, and then grow even further into those things. So yeah, just encouraging them to go deep, not wide, and to seek those opportunities that, like Riley was saying.
I will also be going back to where I did my internship. It's going to be another 6-month internship because not being from the US makes things a little bit more complicated for me. But hopefully after these 6 more months there, I can go back. I will be going back to Europe and probably, hopefully going to stay with the company because they're really everywhere in the world. So hopefully I can go back to stay with and stay with them because I personally think it's a great company to work for. And as for advices, I would say to encourage your students to find their passion and not diminish them, and encourage them to follow them and what they really like, and yeah.
All right, so I'm going to bring the rest of the SPDC staff back up and open up the floor for questions. There's 2 microphones in the center. You're welcome to walk up and ask questions, either to the students or any one of us, and we're happy to give further insight into anything we spoke about today or anything in regards to professional development as a whole here at Elon University. What questions do you guys have? Somebody's going to have a question, right? Yeah, you can just say it loudly or walk up to the microphone. That'd be great.
I was just curious, oops,
Yeah,
sorry.
you're good.
On the statistics, if the percentage of employed is really high, we have another college graduate at home and one coming up from here. Just curious if you're seeing out of that 90%, is it permanent full-time employment? Especially if you have a performing arts student who would probably likely have a series of jobs that begin and end, and then unemployment, and then a series of jobs that be unemployment.
Yeah, so you'll see the last column there is that 95%, it says job is career related. And so that changes for every industry, as we know. So somebody in an accounting role or a communications role might be taking on a full-time permanent position, and somebody in an arts role might be taking more of what we would call a gig economy, right? They're taking jobs as they come up. But what we want to focus on is that job that they're in currently, within the career scope of what they want to do. So what we see in the outcomes there is 95% are in a career field that they want to be in. Whether in most of them it is a permanent full-time role. Now, obviously, industry specific, it might look a little bit different. Anybody else speak to that?
Sure, and just to go off what Brooke was saying, it does go from industry to industry. So we're seeing a trend now, particularly in StratCom, so PR advertising, where if the student hasn't done a really great internship the summer before their senior year, it's common for a big agency to have what's called a post-grad fellowship, and that's a 3-month full-time paid basically internship, and then from that it turns into a full-time job afterwards. So we'll get that information from them the day of graduation, 3 months later, and then 9 months when they've been hired full-time at that organization. So it does vary from industry to industry.
What other questions do you have?
To the right?
Yeah?
So with the stats that's up there, just to make sure that I'm on board with this, is this for the Elon University or is this for students that participate in the Student Professional Development Center?
Yeah, no, this is for all of Elon University. So the First Destination Survey goes out to all students at graduation. They all get a paper copy of the survey and a digital copy of the survey. So this is for all, that 93% knowledge rate is for all students at Elon University who graduated in the class of 2018. Yeah, that's a good question. Some may have worked with our office, others have not. Yeah.
What would you recommend for freshmen?
Freshman, you want career advisor to speak?
Come see us. I say that all the time. I did first-year experience classes in my previous position. The sooner that we engage them and get them in the habit, right, of coming in, whether it's, you can get some extended time when you're trying to figure out what you want to major in, or what we like to say is figure out what your career interests are more likely than back into a major that they like that will still get them there, rather than being pigeonholed into a particular major that they start to maybe not like so much kind of thing. So that's how we approach it, really. But we want first years to come see us, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's just being introduced and being able to be familiar and comfortable with walking into the office and just being able to build those relationships over the years. Brooke was one of the people I was most excited to tell that I had gotten the internship. And so being able to cultivate those and just start it early, that's the best you could do.
And I think I mentioned this before, but my relationship with SPDC was really just getting to know myself and what I wanted with my 4 years. And then I thought the point that she just brought up was it wasn't more of like picking my major, it was kind of more of what are potential fields out there that I could be interested in. And I do think that first years do get overwhelmed and kind of intimidated by the SPDC, but I think encouraging them to go like early on and create that relationship with them is so helpful, because then as you start creating those resumes and practicing those interviews and seeking internships, you'll already have those relationships with these faculty members. That makes it easier.
And also building off of that, I would also say to start going, because maybe they think it's far in the future, but it's not. So start going, because 4 years fly. So start going as soon as they can, because, yeah.
There was one other question.
Yes. Sorry to ask that question, but it's a follow-up on some I heard. And I'm a statistician, and that came out. Do you know what the response rate on these surveys is?
Yeah, so the response rate, the knowledge rate, that 93%, or you said the response rate?
You said you give that survey to everyone that walks out. How many do you get back in?
So we get 90, we hear from 93% of the students.
So that's what the knowledge rate is?
Mm-hmm.
I thought, okay, so it's a 93% response rate.
Yeah, so there is some students that we double check on LinkedIn, so if we get incomplete information from the students, so obviously the surveys has multiple questions on it. If we have an answer but incomplete information, we will pull information from LinkedIn. It's considered a verifiable source to pull additional information from. That's a good question. There's somebody all the way in the back, yeah.
What type of internships and career planning or services do you offer to like dance,
Performing arts and dance? Either one of you work more with arts and sciences?
Well, they can do internships in, a lot of them go with companies and things on the side, but they, you know, it kind of varies depending on what it is they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and especially for performing arts students, the faculty, they're highly involved, they're well connected, and they serve as a big professional resource for those students as well. If it's summer stock, or if it's a connection they have at a performing arts center or a museum, if it's a talent agency, if the student wants to get into that side. So we collaborate with faculty to help make sure that they're getting the experience in addition to what they're doing during the school year.
All right, we've got to.
Quick question.
Yep.
The companies that just came in the fall,
Yes.
can students get a list of who actually came? And then how far in advance of the spring will you know who's coming to that?
Yeah, so what we didn't mention in all of this information is there is a platform called the Elon Job Network, and that platform is available to students as soon as they come to campus. Every student has access. They use their regular Elon ID and user information to get into the Elon Job Network, and that has all the information on events, who's attending those events, and upcoming events. So as soon as we have an employer register for, let's say, the Job and Internship Expo, it's updated in the Elon Job Network. And that's where we really want students to go to that first when looking for jobs and internships and engagement with employers, because these are relationships that we and the corporate and employer relations team have networked, have fostered, have built. They know Elon students. They've hired typically Elon students in the past. And so we know that their resume is going to the right place when they apply to those positions through the Elon Job Network. So that's going to be the first place to look and the most updated information that's available to them. We have it on our website as well, but it's updated live on the Elon Job Network.
Can I add to that? I also had a professor print out a sheet of the companies that were going to be represented there, and they highlighted the ones that were underneath my field. So some professors do go above and beyond and do that for you, and that kind of really helped me so that I could research those companies ahead of time and kind of know what they're about before I went and networked with them.
Yeah, in each school, what we do up into the Elon Job Network is we make an information sheet. We make a College of Arts and Sciences information sheet, a School of Business and a School of Communications information sheet, letting the students know who's coming that's in their industry or field, what they're hiring for, and typically where that location is that they're hiring for. That's usually around the week before that we put that information sheet together, so it has the most relevant information on it. Saw one more hand.
We had one more aspect. When do we learn about what's the?
When do we learn about the spring? So right now, we're currently solidifying the date for the spring. There's we have to work around a lot of other events because it's actually hosted here in the alumni gym. And so as soon as that date is, probably in the next 2 weeks, that date will be solidified, and then we'll start reaching out to employers. So we'll know typically be somewhere in mid-January in the winter term what most of the employers are who are coming to that event. And it's usually held towards the end of February. So a month before is when you get the most comprehensive list.
For the workshops, like sophomore success, are those wildly marketed, publicized, or do you go to the website?
Yeah, no, all of our workshops are widely publicized. We do digital boards throughout. As you guys walk around campus, you see all the digital boards. If it's a targeted event, for example, the Communications Internship Expo, it'll be really widely marketed in the School of Communications. If it's an event targeted towards certain industries, we'll send an email out to those students that might be interested in that industry. So we do kind of a multifaceted marketing approach to make sure if you walk around campus right now, you'll probably see still chalk outlines where we announced at the Job and Internship Expo on the sidewalks. I walked across one today from last week's marketing. So we do a lot of different types of marketing to make sure that we get the information in front of students.
We market to faculty.
And we market to faculty as well, so that they can then promote it in their classroom. And we encourage faculty to also bring maybe extra credit if they attend into academic credit as well.
Adding on to that, I think it's great that you have these billboards. I'm not quite sure my daughter is going to notice those. Do you have like your own Instagram page? Because she does follow some other, so you do have that?
Yep. So the SPDC has an Instagram page and a Facebook page. Ross in Communications has a communication-specific Facebook page, and the Corporate and Employer Relations team has a Facebook page where we announce what cities we're in and what employers we're visiting. And we might have others too. Oh, we have a blog as well.
Yeah, we have a blog that focuses on all the different industries, and we also have a Twitter. And we have a marketing manager that has an MBA that helps coordinate all this, along with, about 15 student workers that for our expo, they literally put a little sign in every single classroom on the whiteboard promoting the expo. So we definitely have a marketing strategy, and we are using all channels, the new media, traditional, etc., all that good stuff.
Anything else? Can you say what the Instagram is?
The Instagram, do we know what our hashtag is?
I think it's Elon Careers. I can check real quick. But that's the most popular one, actually. We get the most interaction with students from that.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
2 minutes. One more question? Well, I want to thank these students. First and foremost, we have a little gift for them. They did a great job of telling you about their professional development.